grand opening of the Scotia Glenville Industrial Park. This park is more than 1,300,000 square feet in 11 buildings, and at present is 60% occupied. The Scotia Glenville Park is our third in the Capital District, and when combined with Northeastern Industrial Park and Rotterdam Industrial Park, totals over 7.5 million square feet of space. This clearly demonstrates the Galesi Group's confidence and commitment in the Capital District. Speaking of commitment, I would like to turn the program over to a man who, through his commitment, is working to keep industry and business here in Schenectady County. He is the president of the Schenectady County Economic Development Council and the executive director of the Industrial Development Agency, Mr. George Robertson.
Thank you. It's a distinct pleasure for me to serve as your Master of Ceremonies today and to be asked to do that. Those of you who know me know that we'll try to keep the program moving right along because we eat afterwards. And so we'll try not to let it lag. Today is indeed a celebration of sorts, and I think we need to make note of that. It's first of all a celebration of the commitment of Schenectady County, its towns, its cities, its private sector to the future growth and the job creation in this county and our future as an economic unit. And this represents a symbol of that kind of commitment. About 3 months ago, every chief elected official of every unit of government in this county, all of the county board members, all of the city councilmen and town board members got together and jointly made a commitment, without regard to partisanship, without regard to municipal boundaries, to develop this county and provide jobs for its people. This today is a symbol of the beginning success of that effort. Secondly, today is a celebration of what can happen when the public sector and the private sector goes hand in hand in creating its own future. Indeed, the government of Schenectady County, on all levels, has shown that it is the friend and partner of business, that it believes in business growth, and that it's here to help business grow and prosper. And today is a celebration of that joining of hands between the public sector and the private sector to do something good for all of us. Lastly, today is clearly a celebration of a corporation that has a growing impact and is playing a growing leadership role in our entire community. A corporation that is becoming known all over for its entrepreneurship and its creative solutions and creative growth. And that today is also a celebration of the Galesi Corporation and the major role it's playing not only in this county but in New York State. Let me, in our first segment of today's program, you met one of the senior vice presidents, Peter Cornell, who introduced me. Let me introduce you to a second senior vice president of the Galesi Group, Mr. David Bucco. Dave.
Thank you, George. As George indicated, this project really is known as Scotia Glenville Industrial Park is the culmination of the combined efforts, bipartisan efforts of all officials, both on the federal, state, county, city, town, and village levels. It was a very complex program to put this financing package together, and the efforts of all were very key in putting it. We used a $9 million industrial revenue bond, which was issued with the cooperation of the state and the county and the county IDA. We used a $1.25 million UDAG grant, which was granted to the city from the Housing and Urban Development, contributed to the city, and lent to an adjoining community, Glenville. A very unique program called an extraterrestrial UDAG grant, something not too commonly found in the UDAG program. We also contributed $1.75 million of equity from the Galesi Group. The combination of these factors put the financing package together and enabled us to take what was a very speculative project, 1.3 million square feet of vacant warehousing space, and converted it to a viable industrial park. Projects such as this are demonstrable of the fact that these programs available from the state and the federal level are necessary to ensure economic development of the area. Low interest loans, industrial revenue bonds, provide us with the necessary low interest costs necessary to provide the community with below market rates and spur economic development. As Peter indicated, we were over 60% occupied and have far exceeded in 1 year the job level and job creation that we told the IDA we would hit. Actually, we're probably about 2 years ahead of it right now, and we could speculate on what the next year is going to bring, but I won't do that at this point in time. There are a variety of people, too numerous to mention, that I'd like to thank on behalf of the Galesi Group that have supported this project and worked with us many hours for the past couple years and still going on for the future development of these buildings. What I'll do is just highlight some of the key individuals and agencies that we'd wish to thank and apologize for those that I do miss, because we'd be here through lunch if I rattled off everybody's name. First, the Schenectady County Industrial Development Agency. The Chairman, Richard Lewis, Executive Director, George Robertson, Board members Betty Bean, Bill Westcott, Bob McAvoy, and Rudy Chase. The Schenectady Board of Representatives, Chuck Drago is Chairman, and the rest of the Board of Representatives, many who are here today. The Town of Glenville, Bill Baird, the Town Supervisor, and his staff and elected officials that have been and are still working with us as far as development of this project. The Village of Scotia, John Ryan, the former mayor, Dennis Madden, the current mayor. The City of Schenectady, the Common Council, Mayor Karen Johnson, Greg Simos, Director of Economic Planning. Department of Housing and Urban Development, their staffs in Albany, Buffalo, and New York, which we're privileged to have Joe Monticello, the Regional Administrator, here today. Our officials on the federal level, Senator Alphonse D'Amato and Congressman Sam Stratton. And last but not least, somebody who usually doesn't get recognized is the bank that had the faith in the Galesi Group to purchase the $9 million of industrial revenue bonds and have supported the Galesi Group in its growth, particularly in the Capital District, Chemical Bank and Roy Hosley in particular. So on behalf of the entire Galesi Group, I want to thank all of you. It's a tremendous community effort, and we look forward to expanding this into the vacant land and the vacant buildings we have available to us. Thank you.
We very briefly are going to introduce you to some of the key players. Before I leave the Galesi Group, though, we have in this area what I call the triumvirate. You've met two of them. And he's not going to speak, but I do want him to stand and be recognized. The other senior vice president of the Galesi Group, Tony DiLorenzo, who's right up here. Last night when we held the meeting to go over today's agenda, it was mentioned that Tony was in charge of the weather. Now, I don't know how many of you know Tony's connections, but I felt secure in what the weather would be like today, and indeed it is that. The federal government was a very key player, not only in what's happened in Schenectady County and Schenectady City, but also in this project. We're very honored to have with us today a career employee of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, who is now the regional director of that department, a man who has shown what true participation by federal government to do to accomplish something. Let me introduce for you the regional director of HUD. He has all of New York State, New Jersey, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, Joseph Monticello. Joe?
Thank you, George. George asked me what he should say about me when he introduced me. I said, just be nice. So, thank you. Well, today's a great day of congratulations to everyone. It proves what the President and what Secretary Pierce have been saying, that public-private partnerships are what make things happen. The public can't do it alone, the private sector can't do it alone, but together we can do a lot. And I'm pleased to participate in this event where we've been able to contribute just a small part of that pie, but enough that made this whole thing come true. The private sector working with the city, I mean, this is really, I wouldn't be able to remember all the names that David brought up, but I mean, if there was a cohesive combination of public-private partnerships that's in this particular project. Getting a neighboring city like the city of Schenectady to be the vehicle, the cooperation of the county of Schenectady, the banks, the Galesi Group, and of course the federal government. It's a great event. I would like to congratulate each and every one of you for doing some good things for your own communities and providing job opportunities and providing tax revenues, and in turn for the growth of a great county and a great city. Thank you very much.
I just discovered something interesting that's a challenge as being the MC, is that every time one of these people sits down behind me, they pick different chairs, and my same one is never there every time. This commitment, and I think one of the unique things about the funding that made this project not only possible but competitive. We have 1.3 million square feet here that is available at very, very competitive rates. It's going to enable us to entice business in. A part of that funding was that extraterritorial UDAG. And here representing the City of Schenectady, the City Council, and the City staff, Mayor Karen Johnson.
Did he get my chair? Hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here on this beautiful day to congratulate the Galesi Group on a very successful project. The city, and I think I can speak sincerely on behalf of all the elected officials that have been involved in this, and our staff, which has worked tremendously hard on this. We are just extremely pleased that the vehicle of the extraterritorial UDAG was available to us so that we could participate with others to support this project. Sometimes in Schenectady, we begin to lose faith in what we can do together, and I think as we sit here today and see what we can do by working together, we see that we have a tremendous amount of strength that maybe we didn't even know we had. And so to all of you who worked on this, to the councilmen present who supported this, to Greg Simos, whose staff, many of whom are here today, I would just like to thank them for all the nights of hard work and the commitment to economic development in all of Schenectady County, not just the city of Schenectady. Thank you.
I noticed Dave Bucco referred to it as not an extraterritorial UDAG, but an extraterrestrial UDAG. We have tried some creative funding techniques. We have not tried that one yet, but since he mentioned it, we will check it out. With us today is the town supervisor of the town in which this project is located, who has participated, helped, and provided the governmental support locally to infrastructure and other things, Supervisor William Baird of the town of Glenville. Bill.
Good morning, everyone. I officially, on behalf of the family of Glenville and Scotia, want to welcome you to the shores of Scotia Glenville and thank all of you who are here. Most of you, as I look around, have had a hand in helping develop this wonderful opportunity. The name of the game today is diversification and utilization. The town of Glenville and its properties here had for a long time a dormant, decadent operation. A wonderful Galesi corporation saw fit to come in here and doing some great things. And we certainly too, along with everyone else, want to thank the various area municipalities who have welded together to help this come off, because it wouldn't have happened without the cooperation of all of you in government. But what's down the road? The future is what we have to look forward to now, and the future's bright for the Galesi Corporation and other organizations that will be moving over into this area as the future goes. And if you can with me, just visualize and take a look across that river and imagine a bridge connecting exit 26 up the road here. And we got the water, and we're going to see and work with all of you to see that that happens. And thanks so many of you for being here. God bless you.
Bill stole my commercial message, which was the one thing we need to add is to connect this particular piece of property in the town of Glenville with the town of Rotterdam with the exit 26 bridge. We have Paul Tonko and Assemblyman Jim Tedesco with us today, who are going to be very helpful and instrumental in helping us do that. You know, I've met a lot of congressmen, and every once in a while you get to meet somebody who truly matches the definition of U.S. representative, who represents you and who you can call up, get on the phone because he answers it himself, and when you ask him to do something, he does it. And Sam Stratton has been instrumental in helping us not only on this project, but with all economic development in this area. So I'd like to introduce at this time a former mayor of Schenectady, now our U.S. Congressman, Sam Stratton. Sam.
Thank you very much, George. I think it would be remiss, I would be remiss if we didn't point out that we really have a nonpartisan team when it comes to helping the 23rd Congressional District, as well as a number of other districts in New York State. And that is in the presence of Senator Al D'Amato. Senator D'Amato, I don't know how he does it. He goes back and forth. Just in the paper yesterday, you may have read. He called somebody else who arranged to put the Nissan truck, or a sedan rather, into a special trust fund. So the young lady is not only going to be able to see New York City, Pan Am has agreed to fly her back to Hawaii at the request of Senator Inouye, and the sedan will provide for her education. And then Al further spent a half an hour pointing out why he had succeeded in persuading Judge Chalakis to assume the chair in the Northern District Court of the federal bench. And that's just some of the days that he puts in. And I think any of us who have worked with Senator D'Amato and called on his help as a member of the Senate Appropriations Committee appreciate him. And I think he wasn't able to be here in person. Maybe he'll helicopter in, I'm not sure. But I think what we have had with his support has been an outstanding combination between the House and the Senate. And incidentally, Senator D'Amato is on the Senate Appropriations Committee, and they have a unique ability at corralling funds. In fact, the Armed Services Committee of Appropriations in the Senate discovered at the end of the year that they had $7 billion of unauthorized funds. And everybody has been trying to grab in that grab bag, but it's all reserved for defense, but maybe we can squeeze out for other things. The thing that, of course, both of us are concerned about is that the devices that George Robertson has been referring to, and the extraterritorial situation, the extraterrestrial UDAG, I don't know how they slipped that behind us, those are now in limbo because of the approval of the Graham-Rudman legislation. And that means that although there were a lot of goodies coming to the cities, and those of us who received the mayors of the communities early in the year who were seeking to get revenue sharing back again, we had to point out that not only did we not have any revenue, but we actually had a debt of some $200 billion annually. So some of these programs are going to, I think, perhaps slip a little bit as a result of that legislation. All of the business community who are assembled here are all saying, damn it, why don't you do something about getting that deficit down? And then when we say, well, we've got the Graham-Rudman legislation, and they say, but yeah, why can't we get some money for our project? But while I was sitting out here under the trees, I remembered a leading article that appeared in the New York Times on Sunday with respect to the shifting nature of General Electric. And it was entitled The General Electric Money Machine. And one of the vice presidents is in charge of that machine, and General Electric has been doing so well that they can hand this stuff out pretty much like a bank. So if it turns out, George, that there aren't some of these federal grants available, we might find a friendly executive across the river with General Electric who could do the same thing for municipal improvements that the General Motors Acceptance Corporation, for example, has done for the Chevrolet and the Cadillac. We hope that the Graham-Rudman legislation isn't going to be too damaging, but we've only begun, and I hate to throw that in as a skunk in a garden party, but it is a fact of life. We're going to try to do the best we can, and if there are any miracles that can be worked, I'm sure that Al D'Amato will work them. Thank you.
The cooperation that the congressman referred to between he and the senator's office is something that I think is the bulwark of our success in this county, is the fact that under the leadership of our county board and our county manager, working together with each of the cities and towns, we have been able to move forward and to succeed in some of the things we've done. Senator D'Amato could not be with us today, but Bill Powers of his staff has a letter from the senator he does want to share with us. Bill?
Thank you very much. Dear friends, I am pleased to send my personal best wishes and congratulations on the grand opening of the Scotia Glenville Industrial Park. The opening of this new facility is a fine example of the positive results you achieve when there is cooperation of government and the private sector. The Galesi Group in Schenectady County working together to develop surplus government property will certainly have a positive economic impact on the local economy. I regret that I am not able to be there with you today, but through this letter I wish you the best of luck on this new endeavor. I would now like to take a moment and ask the congressman if he'd like to step back up here with me. I had a phone call from the senator this morning, and the miracle worker was at work, I guess, sometime between when I left him at 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon and this morning, and asked me to announce here today, which is the first time it's going to be announced, that there is $162 million in additional funds that were going to be rescinded for this type of a project, that sometime between 5 o'clock last night and 9 o'clock this morning, through the efforts of Congressman Stratton and Senator D'Amato, that we are pleased to announce today that will be saved. Thank you very much. Congressman, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bill.
Our next and last speaker is the one my wife came to hear. Ever since she saw this magazine article of this handsome fellow on the cover, and she has good taste in men because after all she picked me. I think it's a distinct honor for me to introduce this gentleman. The magazine said, called him an entrepreneur, and I think that's one of the things that the entire corporation that bears his name has brought to Schenectady County, is a kind of creative entrepreneurship in not only the development of property, but in the development of businesses that will occupy that property. The Galesi Corporation is a one of major significance in this area. They employ over 500 people within the Capital District alone, have some 8 million square feet of space in this area. They have made a commitment to this area, and it's with a great deal of pleasure that I introduce to you Francesco Galesi, the chairman and CEO of the Galesi Corporation.
Thank you, George. Well, the reason why we're here in the Capital District is because people like you. We've had nothing but cooperation in the Capital District on every level, federal, state, and local level. From the very beginning, I see my friend Harry Dubrin there, who was instrumental in the early days when I just came to Guilderland, and he and his group were very helpful at that time, and it just continued on, and we became more entrenched in the Capital District. And this is an example. The Scotia Glenville Industrial Park is an example of the fantastic cooperation we have received, and the reason why we're so enthusiastic about this area. And it's a partnership. But I'd like to point out one more thing. It's not only the senior officers of the Galesi group who have helped make it all happen, that goes without saying, but it's also the regular employees who have come to our organization about 15 years ago and have worked very, very hard behind the scenes, the sort of the unsung heroes. And I'd like to point out one in particular today. My second employee. My first employee is Tony DiLorenzo. My second employee, who was a plumber, and he's 70 years old, and he's retiring next month, and I'd like to point him out, Joe O'Connor. And I'd like to thank you all again, and let's have a nice lunch. Thank you.
As Dave indicated before, if we were to thank everyone in this audience who had a hand in making this possible and who was involved in economic development, we would have to simply introduce the whole crowd.